So around this time last year, I was at the worst my mental health has ever been. I was full blown, just mental breakdown, meltdown, whatever you call it. And I know why it was. I was working on getting my evaluation for autism. Good chunk of my family members, I was getting a lot of pushback for that. I was getting a lot of gaslighting. I was getting a lot of like, oh, I think we're all a little bit autistic. Oh, so and so is also autistic, and they're doing this, or such and such has Asperger's. And I was trying. I was waiting for my evaluation to be scheduled. I had been on the wait list for like dang near a year. Excuse me. I was finally starting to see a psychologist and being able to talk things out. That took me a long time to get to see someone again. And I was struggling with trying to understand and process like my past, and if certain family members that I had been no contact with, if it was safe to try to have contact with them again. I had been no contact with a significant family member that was for about a year, and that was really messing me up because I was no contact with them for a lot of the same reasons, the gaslighting, the you should be working when I had already been declared disabled, and while I was pushing for my disability and self-advocating and going through that, there was also a lot of like, oh, you should be working. And I guess to them I was an embarrassment because I smoke medicinal cannabis for my panic attacks, which I'm now realizing was overstimulation from autism and masking for 32 years, about to be coming up on 33 years. And the, oh, you can't have that because you're too young and stuff like that. Like, oh, you can't possibly have a heart attack, you're too young for that. Actually, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and that makes me significantly more susceptible to having a heart attack. And one of the biggest kickers was there was a family member that years back had groped me after I picked them up while they were drunk. And I spoke up about that. I said they got handsy. It basically got dismissed, and then, okay, shrug it off, whatever. And then a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, came up to me and said that there was other stuff going on. And I had gotten fed up, and I spoke up again because it was a friend this time, and I should have spoken up from the beginning, but that's not how it works. So, when you're told that you can't speak out against certain people, and you're raised in a manner where sometimes speaking your mind gets you in trouble, it's not as easy to do as you think. Even if you're thinking like, oh, it wasn't that bad growing up. No. Look back at how I'm able to function as a human today. I can't really speak up for myself. It's like usually after the fact, because in the moment I'm gonna fawn. I'm going to stop and I'm going to fawn. That's my response. Like, so for a few years, like, that particular person, I was still letting hug me, and I was still like trying to have a good relationship with. And yes, it took me standing up for my friend to be like, I'm done with this. I'm standing up for me too. And I'm going to learn how to love myself now. And between the gaslighting for my medical issues and the basically putting on this, attitude of like, oh, it's all in your head. Like, it's not all in my head. I have it on medical documentation. These are the reasons why I can't function. And they're like, oh, no, that can't be. If you weren't diagnosed as a kid, you can't be diagnosed as an adult. Like, the criteria for what they were looking for in autism back then, and like a lot still today, unless you're advocating for yourself, is basically how a little white boy would present with autism. Like, girls do not present the same way. High masking people do not present the same way. And it's not the same for everyone. It is a spectrum. And like, I'm sorry, these people are not specialists. These people that are gaslighting me are not specialists in psychology, in autism, in rheumatoid arthritis, in autoimmune disease, any of it. They're not doctors. And I was continuing to get worse and worse as I was trying to desperately trying to be understood. And in that meltdown, in that breakdown, as I'm desperately trying to be understood, my communication is getting worse and worse. And it wasn't until I had to understand that it wasn't going to change. And if I wanted to get better, I had to remove myself from that situation. I had to learn how to love myself. I had to not tolerate the gaslighting. I did not tolerate being put down all the time. I had to understand that I was not going to be learned or listened, or I was not going to be heard or listened to. I was only going to be talked over. Because that is what that family was. And yet they're good people and they mean well, sure. But I have to love myself. I have to put myself first. People don't go no contact because they don't love their family. They love so much that what is happening breaks their heart. And they're sacrificing themselves, and they're saying, I'm not going to sacrifice myself anymore. Don't gaslight someone. You can't experience their life. You can only be a part of it. If someone's saying they're going through something, believe them. Because if you don't, you might not be a part of that life and welcome in that life anymore. So, yeah. I am disabled, I have autism, I have ADHD, I have OCD, I have really bad depression, I have panic disorder, I have social anxiety, I have rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia, and that is my reality, and I'm living by myself on disability, and I'm trying to get back up again. So anyone out there who's trying to get back up again, I see you, I'm proud of you, keep at it. Don't let people dismiss you. Don't let people walk over you. Don't let them gaslight you. Stand up for yourself.